Hello everyone and welcome to today's video where I'll be going through all of my most expensive, most luxurious makeup and skincare items, and I will be telling you if they are worth the price or not and if I would recommend them or not. And for those products that I do not recommend or I do not think are worth the price, I'll be showing you some less expensive and better alternatives. So if you're interested in seeing that, then let's just get started. So I actually only have one skincare item, so I figured I would start with that. And that item is the Tatcha Essence. This is a $95 essence, and yes, I think it's worth it. Yes, I would recommend it. I happen to love this essence. I just love Tatcha as a brand, as a line. I feel like they're just an awesome skincare brand, and their skincare just really works with me and my skin. I absolutely love this because it is just so hydrating. It's plumping, and it just gives you a really nice skincare experience. Is it worth the $95? I do think it is worth the $95, and I'll tell you why. So they formulate their products with their, I think it's called Hadasi or Hadasi 3. It's like their main skincare ingredient that's in all of their products. And this product specifically has the highest concentration of that complex. That's why it's so expensive. Now, besides this, my favorite product from them is their Dewy Skin Mist. That is, I want to say, is it $45 or $55, and it's 1.45 ounces. This is 5.1 fluid ounces, and it's $95, and it has that higher concentration of that complex. So I think for the price, it is worth it. That's why it's so high in price. And I feel like this is that one product that really works for hydration. After a week or two of using this, I use this once a day at night. And after, like I said, a week or two, you will see results with this. You will see your skin becoming less dry, less hydrated. So I feel like for that reason, I definitely think it's worth the price. I definitely think that anything that you see a result with is worth the price. So this I absolutely love, and I would absolutely recommend for either the winter time or if you just have a more dry skin type. So next up, we'll be moving on to the makeup. And at first I was like, maybe I should do the most expensive item in each category. But then I just figured that I wanted to do like the most expensive out of everything that I have, like the most expensive, the highest price tag, the most luxurious items. So that being said, I have about 9 makeup items to talk about. First up, I'll be talking about 3 foundations, and my most expensive of the 3, which isn't even a foundation, is the Chanel Water Tint. This is $65. Yes, $65 for a tint. This is a really interesting product. I really like this product. Like it says, it gives a really nice tint to the skin. It really evens everything out really nicely, and it gives you a nice sort of dewy glow, but not like oily, more in a dewy that your skin just looks healthy and hydrated, if that makes sense. So this I really do love. Is it worth $65? Although I love it and I would recommend it, I don't know if it's necessarily really worth $65. So if you're looking for a product like this that will leave your skin looking really fresh and healthy and hydrated, but also has a tint and will cover up your redness and just even out your skin tone, I have 2 things to recommend. So I have the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Tinted Moisturizer and the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. I feel like I talk about both of these products non-stop. The Ilia is $40, the ColourPop is $14. These both definitely have more coverage than the Chanel, which for me is a plus. I'd rather more coverage. These both, like I said, they'll even out your skin tone, give you some coverage, and just leave you with a really nice, healthy looking dewy glow. My next complexion product is the famous Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I feel like if you're a part of the beauty community or love makeup, you have heard about this foundation. This foundation is pretty much famous. It's been around for a really long time, and I will say that this foundation is the first foundation I ever really loved, I ever called a holy grail. I feel like at that time I had tried a bunch of foundations and I liked them, but I didn't love them, and this was the first foundation that I ever really loved. So this foundation is $64, and I definitely think it is 100% worth the money. I love this foundation. I would definitely recommend it if you have normal to dry skin. If you are more combo, if you are more oily, I wouldn't really recommend this because it's not transfer proof. It doesn't prevent you from getting shine. It doesn't really prevent you from like your oils coming out or anything like that. It's a solid medium foundation with a really nice natural to dewy finish, and I just love this. If you have dry skin, this is so dry skin friendly. This is the first foundation I ever tried that I could apply to my chin, and it didn't look cakey and it didn't look dry because my chin is just my problem area. It always has been. I feel like it always will be. Even if a foundation looks amazing on the rest of my face, on my chin, for some reason it'll just like grab weirdly and get cakey over there and dry. And this is the first foundation that never did that. This also is an amazing foundation if you have acne, because although it's not full coverage, it's one of those foundations that you can really put like 5 or 6 layers of this if you wanted, and it just looks great layered on top of itself. It doesn't get cakey. Nothing like that. I will say that this definitely needs to be set with a powder. It's not like the longest wearing, but I just love this foundation. I love using this for photo shoots. I love using this on brides just because it's really sort of like undetectable, and it's just overall a great foundation. I feel like I've been speaking about this for 10 minutes at this point, but it's amazing, definitely worth the money, and I absolutely love it. Next up, we have the Dior Air Flash Foundation. No, it's not worth it. I hate this foundation. I spoke about this in a products I regret buying. This is $62 and literally not worth it at all. I just do not like this foundation. For me, it just does not sit on the skin properly. It looks weird. It grabs to dry spots, it grabs to texture I didn't know that I had. So overall, I really do not like this foundation, and it's definitely not worth the money. But a foundation that is similar to this that I do really like is the Sephora brand Perfection Mist Airbrush Foundation. This is basically like a dupe to the Dior, but like 100 times better. This is $28 and I love this. It's a medium coverage, really nice natural finish, lasts all day, and yeah, I just love this. The one thing that isn't good about this is that this only has like 5 shades, and the darkest shade is basically my summer shade, so that kind of just says a lot about it right there. But overall, this is definitely not worth the money. Do not go out and spend $62 on this. All right, moving on, I have another like famous product, or famous to me, I guess. This is the Tom Ford shade in Illuminate. I have it in 01 Intensity, or Intensity 1. This is like their middle shade, and this, my friends, is $88. Yes, basically $90 for a cream bronzer and a cream highlighter that, as you can tell, I have never used. So is this worth the money? Yes, 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 100 times yes. I absolutely love this. Although I don't even use the highlighter shade and I just use the cream bronzer, I still think it is worth the money at $88 because this is just the best cream bronzer I have ever used. And if you know me, you know that I love cream bronzers and cream blushes, and like I said, this is the best I've ever used. The formulation of this is just incredible. It's obviously creamy, but it has more of like a waxy foundation or waxy formula to it. It's kind of hard to explain, but this is just, first of all, it's beautiful. It blends out so easily. It wears all day. Like you could literally put this on at 8 a.m., take a nap at like 3 p.m. and be out at 10 p.m. at night and it would still look good. It does not fade at all. This is like the one cream product that I can seriously say lasts all day and does not fade at all. It's amazing. I absolutely love this. It's just literally an incredible cream bronzer, and although it's $90, I still say that it's worth it. Next up, I have a powder bronzer. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. This is like a fairly new release. Can we just talk about this pan size? It's literally massive. But anyways, this is a $55 powder bronzer. Do I think it's worth it? I don't. I love Charlotte Tilbury, I love her powders, but this is just not worth the $55. I do really like this bronzer, but again, I just don't think it's worth the money. I feel like bronzers is one of those products that a lot of brands, including drugstore brands, have done really, really well. And for that reason, I just don't think it's worth the $55. My holy grail bronzer that I use basically every day, I use on clients, I recommend to everyone if they ask if they need a bronzer, is this Milani one. This is the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer, and I have the shade Suntan. And this bronzer, I want to say, is like $11, and this bronzer I absolutely love. Comes in a bunch of shades, and I just love it. And I feel like because I love this bronzer so much and it's such a great price, I feel like that also kind of feeds into why I don't think this is worth $55, because again, Like I was saying, it's a great bronzer, but you can find other drugstore bronzers that are just as good. Now, a Charlotte Tilbury powder that is worth the money is this guy over here. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish, and I have it in the shade 2. I absolutely love this. This is a $45 setting powder. I use it to set my under eyes. I use it to set my face. This is the first powder I really fell in love with. This is one of those powders that you can put on like 14 layers of this and you will not look like you have powder on your face. It is just amazing. It sets down everything really well. I love carrying this in my handbag because, like I said, if you're looking a little shiny, you put this on and you can't tell that you're wearing any powder on your skin. So yeah, this is definitely worth the money. It's definitely worth the $45 in my opinion. Next up is the Hourglass Vanish Concealer. This is a $34 concealer and the most expensive concealer that I own. So I will say that I really like this concealer. It is extremely full coverage. You need a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of this. It goes such a long way. It does not crease, it does not move, and it's just beautiful. But I don't really think it's worth the money because I have two other concealers that I love just as much as this that are less expensive. So those two concealers would be the Jouer concealer and the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I absolutely love these both. The Jouer one is $22 and the e.l.f. one is $6. And the first reels that I ever put up on my Instagram page was comparing this Hourglass one to the e.l.f. one. And I said that the e.l.f. one, which I still stand by, this e.l.f. concealer is absolutely incredible. It's so full coverage. It's great if you have drier under eyes like me. Doesn't crease, doesn't go anywhere, and it is $6. And I also love the Jouer one. So although I do really like this one and I do think it's a great concealer, for $6, I mean, you just can't go wrong. Next up, I have another Hourglass item. This is their ambient lighting palette. And this, I guess you would call the shade Ghost, or this is like their Ghost edit. So every single holiday season, they come out with a face palette like this, and this palette is $80. So this is one of those palettes that I didn't buy every holiday season, and then once a few months would go by, I would regret that I didn't purchase it during the holiday season. So this came out in 2019 and I finally got it. I finally splurged the $80 and picked this up. And at first, I really loved it. And listen, I love Hourglass's powders. Their ambient powders are such an interesting, beautiful formula. They have a sheen, but they're not sparkly. They make your skin look beautiful and healthy. But overall, I don't know if it's worth it because I don't use it that often. So I think the issue is that I don't use it that often because I have so much makeup. But I feel like if you're not a person who has a ton of makeup, you would get a lot of use out of this palette. So I do think that they're worth the money because I believe that they sell the individual powders for, I want to say at least like $40 on their own. So obviously you get 6 powders here and it's obviously worth the money once you do the breakdown. I do really like this. I would recommend this. I don't know, I just don't reach for it that often because I have so much other makeup. But overall, I do still think that this is worth the money. Next up, we have this gorgeous Pat McGrath palette. This is the Mothership 3 palette and it is absolutely gorgeous. I actually spoke about this palette also in my video called Products I Regret Buying, and I still stand with what I said in that video. I absolutely love this palette, but I just don't get a ton of use out of it and I don't really think it's worth the money. This palette is $125 and like I said, I just don't really use it that often and I always try to push myself and almost like force myself to use this because it was so expensive. All of the formulas in here are really awesome, but again, I'm just not like that motivated to use it. These shimmer shades are beautiful, her matte shades are beautiful, but I do feel like you can get the shimmer and the matte formulas in a different, less expensive palettes. It's really these 4 shadows that are really interesting and a really cool formula, and again, I just don't use it that often, so I really feel like it's just not worth the money. Next up, we have this Lila B Divine Duo Lip and Cheek. Okay, when this was delivered to my house, I thought it was like a joke or the travel size. Can we talk about how tiny this is? Look at that. It's tiny and this is $46. $46 for this cream cheek and lip product, and I do not think that this is worth the money at all. It's a great formula. This color, which is Be Fancy, is beautiful. There are so many amazing cream blushes on the market that are a fraction of the price. Like, I actually cannot believe that I spent almost $50 on this tiny thing. It is just crazy to me. Again, I just don't think it's worth the money at all. I have two other products to recommend that I absolutely love and that are definitely worth the money. The first up is the ColourPop blush sticks. I think these are like 9 to 12 bucks. It's basically the same formula as the Lila B one. And then if you want a more expensive option, I have the Nude Sticks Nudies Matte. These come in a variety of shades. So do the ColourPop. These are both great. These are both very similar to the Lila B formula. They're kind of more of a matte to natural cream blush. They're not gonna give like the skin like a sheen or anything like that, but they're not gonna make you look matte and flat. They both blend out beautifully, and yeah, these are definitely worth the money. Do not spend almost $50 on that tiny, tiny blush. Last up, I have two products that I am almost embarrassed that I spent this much money on. So these are both Tom Ford lipsticks. These are like the clutch or pocket sized, and these are $36. $36 each for these tiny, tiny lipsticks. I am embarrassed that I spent this much on a lipstick, but I have always wanted a Tom Ford lipstick. Let me tell you, these are not worth the price, not only because they're tiny, because the formula on both of them are just like not that great. The darker one is a cream formula, and then this white one I think is the sheer formula. Both formulas I do not like. The cream formula, it's like one of those formulas that you put it on your lips and you can see like the dry patches. And then the sheer one is just like too sheer. I don't like either of these. I'm ashamed that I spent so much money on these. And I do have another lipstick to recommend. If you want a bougie lipstick and you want to feel bougie and you want nice packaging, I highly recommend these Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. Listen, these are not cheap either, but these are actually beautiful. She has a matte formula and I think a satin formula or a cream formula. Both formulas are beautiful and the packaging is beautiful. These are luxurious and these are definitely worth the money. So yeah, definitely a pass on these. And I do want to mention that the full size of these are $55. $55 for these. Definitely, definitely, definitely not worth it. Steer clear from Tom Ford lipsticks. All right, that is it for this video. Please let me know down in the comments if you agree with me. Have you tried any of the products that I mentioned that are either A, worth the money, or B, not worth the money? Definitely let me know. And if you like this video, let me know by giving this a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.